This is a reality show where participants act as fugitives throughout the entire series. 9. Ordinary British citizens attempt to evade capture, and if they successfully remain free for 25 days, they win a prize of £100,000. During their escape, they can hide anywhere, outdoors, at a friend's house, or even at a stranger's place, provided they do not leave the country. Living in constant fear and unable to trust anyone, the fugitives must keep moving and changing locations. Despite the hardship, the substantial prize makes it worthwhile. The 9 fugitives, divided into 6 teams, include siblings, retired board seniors, a former Special Forces member, and a deputy mayor. Their escape starts in Manchester, inside a mysterious blue vehicle. The hunters' headquarters, equipped with helicopters and surveillance systems, tracks the fugitives' movements. Once the game begins, the fugitives dash out of the car and disperse quickly, blending into crowds. Most wear dark coats, except for the deputy mayor, Majid, who stands out in a blue raincoat. Majid, who came to the UK as a refugee and later became a deputy mayor, is confident in his ability to elude the hunters using various tactics, like his conspicuous blue raincoat. He tries a decoy trick in a sandwich shop, asking a passerby to wear the raincoat and run out. But the hunters quickly see through this as the decoy appears lost. After a failed attempt to escape through the back door of the shop, Majid runs into the narrow city streets, using the complex urban architecture to evade the hunter's sight. Another contestant, Jamie, a retired Special Forces operative skilled in surveillance, uses his expertise to stay undercover. Surprised by his professional background, the hunters recognize the challenge in tracking him. Jamie is motivated by the prize money to improve his family's life and prepare for his unborn son. Each team starts with £100 for their escape. A father-son duo, Bob and Alex, quickly withdraw £40 from an ATM, immediately alerting the hunters to their location through ATM surveillance. The footage reveals Bob's tendency to become anxious and irritable. The fugitives leave Manchester city centre with limited transportation options like taxis, buses, trains, or ideally, hitchhiking. Most opt for taxis. The 4th fugitive, Carlin, chose a different strategy. She opted for the bus at the start, unlike others who ran frantically. Carlin, a 67-year-old retired university tutor, believed her age and unassuming presence were her advantages. At the bus station, she bought a ticket, unaware that hunters had already started monitoring major stations. Her ticket information was quickly compromised, marking the start with a poor strategy. Fortunately, Carlin disguised herself with a wig, briefly fooling the hunters. Carlin did not want the escape game to be tense and preferred to call it a travel experience, enjoying the freedom along the way. She took it as a new life adventure, embracing the thrill of freedom. On the bus, Carlin thought about the possibility of the hunters knowing she was there and did not want to be caught on the first day. Realizing the danger, she came up with a quick plan to evade the hunters by convincing the bus driver to skip her stop. With few people on board and no one getting on mid-journey, Carlin asked to go directly to London, and the driver agreed. The hunters went to the station first, confirming the bus was not there, then turned around and chased the bus that had just passed by. If the ground capture team did not arrive in time, Carlin would have been safe. Unfortunately, she was already being watched. Carlin persuaded the driver to help her get off early as a tactic, but how could she ride to the final stop? The hunters would be waiting there. After disembarking, Carlin casually walked away, but the hunters quickly apprehended her. Carlin became the first fugitive captured. Meanwhile, a father-son duo got off a taxi and chose a wilderness escape route, quickly moving away from the crowd into the remote wilderness. Alex believed this was the only way to last until the end. Camping in the wild was a common choice among participants, but hard to sustain. The father-son duo hid in a church. The father, Bob, used a disposable phone to contact his wife for survival supplies, a critical mistake. The family's phones were already monitored by the hunters. Alex explicitly stated their current location and the name of the church, all intercepted by the hunters. While people make mistakes during escape, their vigilance also increases. Realizing his wife's phone might be monitored, Bob became very anxious. Staying there would lead to being quickly found by the hunters. After enduring hunger, the father and son decided not to stay and continued their escape. The important thing was to leave, regardless of the destination. When the hunters arrived, they only found a mocking note left by the duo, who did not escape by vehicle and were slow on foot. At this time, the hunters were already using drones to search the nearby area. Upon spotting suspicious activities, they immediately drove off in pursuit. In this critical moment, the father-son duo luckily hitched a ride, escaping quickly with the help of a stranger. Without this car, they would have been captured today. The hunters know this was not a deceptive tactic by the duo, but a fortunate escape after a mistake. After getting off the car, they chose to hide in a cowshed, remaining vigilant of their surroundings. Next, the brother duo, John and Dan, were leisurely walking on the road. The sister duo, Sandra and Mela, were all smiles and laughter, not seeming like they were on the run. In contrast, the Special Forces contestant Jamie was much more cautious, having already hidden in the forest. The hunters would focus a lot of effort on Jamie, as he is the strongest contestant this season. Jamie's wife, Leslie, who is an active-duty police officer, might be his weak point. She is close to her due date, and if she goes into labor during the chase, Jamie would not want to miss such an important event. Leslie says it does not matter, but Jamie does not want to miss it and will do everything possible. This presents a good opportunity for the hunters, who plan to break into Jamie's house when Leslie is not there, and search for clues. They easily opened the back door, and it was clear that several pages had been torn from a notebook, leaving a significant clue. Sometimes pressing too hard with a pen leaves imprints on the papers underneath, which might provide a breakthrough. Now shifting focus to the sister duo, Sandra and Mela, who were born in Uganda and Congo respectively, and migrated to the UK when they were young. According to the capture team's analysis, both enjoy socializing and frequently go out to meet friends. They laughed and chatted while on the run. The hunters now have the phone number of Sandra's mother. They visit Sandra's mother, who is likely to keep silent. The hunters proceed to search and install monitoring software on her laptop. They also find some letters under the bed addressed to Robert, at the same address as Sandra's mother, indicating that Robert lives in the same house and might help Sandra escape. Jamie was restless inside a tent. His wife was going through a tough time at home, about to give birth, and Jamie was not with her. He hadn't gone far, just to the outskirts of Manchester, where he was staying with a merchant's family. While explaining his situation to them, Jamie mentioned his wife was due in 2 weeks. He regretted not being able to be by her side and couldn't help but tear up. He thought he could handle being away when he joined the contest, but by the 3rd day, he already missed home. Fortunately, the merchant helped Jamie by introducing him to Chris, a courier. Jamie planned to ride in Chris's delivery van, but before departing, he intended to withdraw money from an ATM to mislead the hunters and buy himself some time. Jamie got out early and walked to the ATM, careful not to have the delivery van caught on camera. The plan initially worked, and Jamie's ultimate goal was to visit his wife. The hunters, after specially processing a notebook found at Jamie's house, revealed indentations from previous pages. The clear inscription read, "Pick me up from the hospital on the 2nd." This was likely Jamie's plan. Now the hunters also knew the hospital where Jamie's wife was going. They planned to closely monitor the area around the hospital. After leaving the delivery van, Jamie sought help from a stranger and nearly cried again while talking. Meanwhile, the sister duo had escaped to Edinburgh, planning to stay with relatives. Sandra found her uncle's apartment, concerned about being spotted en route. They wore black plastic bags over their heads, making them more suspicious. Sandra's uncle was home and informed them about the hunters' recent search of his house, which made them very nervous. Using a new phone number, Sandra called her mother and asked her to have Robert book a flight to Glasgow. Unbeknownst to them, the hunters already knew about Robert as a critical contact for the fugitives. After finding Robert, the hunters learned from him that Sandra was his sister. A thorough search led them to find a note in Robert's pocket with a number Sandra had given her mother to pass to Robert for coordination. The discovery made Robert very nervous, confirming it was Sandra's number. At that moment, the sisters were on the outskirts of Glasgow, waiting for Robert's help. Sandra was using an unregistered pay-as-you-go disposable phone. Though unregistered, it could still be tapped. Sandra received a call from her mother, advising them to discard the card and flee. Right after the call, the hunters used signal towers to locate the sisters in a desolate park in Glasgow. Their approximate location was now known. Unfortunately, there are no ground capture teams active in Scotland. It would take at least 2 hours for the hunters to arrive. The commander utilized local ghost agents, who have no authority to arrest, but can locate and monitor the sisters' movements before the hunters arrive. The tent they just set up now had to be dismantled and moved, adding significant pressure on the sisters. The hunters accessed local surveillance and spotted the sisters. The only way to escape now was to hitch a ride out of Glasgow. Luckily, a car stopped, but unluckily, it was driven by the ghost agent. The sisters thought they were safe, but ended up in the worst possible vehicle, and were caught directly by the hunters. The phone call to their mother led to their capture on the 8th day. Now, 3 are eliminated, leaving 6 fugitives. The brother duo had traveled the farthest without much trouble and were enjoying their journey. The father-son duo was also happy, having narrowly escaped in a church, which greatly reduced their stress. Father Bob and son Alex happily played after escaping. While searching for the father-son duo's contacts, the hunters found a person named Skelton. Bob had called him 32 times, and he had called Bob's wife 34 times. Clearly a close friend. The father-son duo rushed to Bath in the rain to find a resting place. Bob planned to visit a friend from the Freemasons. Skelton was also a member. The hunters located Skelton but gained nothing from the investigation, as they keep secrets well. One hunter detained Skelton while another hacked into his computer to monitor all his online activities, setting a trap for Bob should he contact Skelton. The hunters just needed to wait. Now they focused mainly on Jamie. Besides knowing his wife Leslie was about to give birth, they had no clues. It was up to Jamie to make a mistake on such a crucial day. Jamie just wanted to see his wife. On the 9th day, he secretly returned home. His wife was not there, so he left a note and quickly fled on a bicycle. The hunters were too late to monitor Jamie's house. Meanwhile, by monitoring Skelton's computer, they discovered a suspicious email from Bob, which contained a hidden plea for help revealing their location. The hunters quickly headed to the camping site, but only found a beautiful woman who had never seen the father-son duo. This was exactly their misleading tactic. The father-son duo had already traveled far and were doing odd jobs at a household in exchange for a ride. Alex, once diagnosed with autism, now seizes a great opportunity to prove himself. Previously, he disliked communicating with people. Now, staying with strangers, he can easily chat with them. The father-son duo, except for a close call at the start, have been eluding the hunters smoothly. The most mysterious are the brother duo, appearing and disappearing unpredictably, rarely caught on camera, baffling the hunters as if vanished. The next team, Dan and John, are lively. They deliver milk in the mornings and work at weddings. They participate in various performances. The 100,000-pound prize would significantly improve their lives. The brothers treat the hunt like a national tour, now seeking help at venues they've previously performed at. To capture them quickly, the hunter commander devised an intelligence-gathering plan. This involved inviting key contacts from Dan and John's network to headquarters to see what they would discuss. The headquarters provided train tickets for them and sent a secret agent to eavesdrop for crucial information on the train. The agent learned much, like the brothers earning money by working in the Lake District, supported by strangers, turning new acquaintances into opportunities, which frustrates the hunters. The brothers uniquely avoid contacting family or friends. On the other hand, Jamie has been communicating with his wife through her friend Sarah. He learned his wife Leslie was being monitored, which upset him. His wife was about to give birth, distracted by these issues. Sarah, often in touch with them, was quickly noticed by the hunters. They gleaned from a torn piece of paper that Sarah is Leslie's birth partner. Jamie visited Sarah's house to borrow a camper van to meet Leslie. At the same time, Leslie left her house, followed by the hunters. Jamie chose a secluded spot in the Highland Forest to meet his wife. They embraced tightly, and Jamie wept. After a brief conversation, Jamie quickly drove away, unexpectedly encountering the hunters on the road. He even waved at them, a mistake. He should have stayed disguised in the car. This series of errors led the hunters right to him. Unluckily, a herd of cows appeared on the road, forcing Jamie to pull over. At this point, escape was nearly impossible. Regrettably, Jamie was caught after taking the risk to see his wife. Jamie's capture greatly boosted the hunters' confidence. 5 fugitives remain in 3 teams: the brother duo, the father-son duo, and Majid. Majid has been missing for 10 days. 2 weeks into the game, the contestants are exhausted, lacking supplies and sleep. The father-son team urgently needed help from a friend, Kevin. Kevin was also Bob's brother in the Freemasons. The hunters had noticed him and had already visited his house to investigate. Luckily, the father and son walked slowly, and by the time they reached Kevin's house, the hunters had already left. Since Kevin was under surveillance, They caught a ride with another Freemason to a house in the suburbs. The roads there were complex, giving the father and son a chance to rest. Meanwhile, Majid was at a friend's house in Manchester. Before leaving, he asked his friend to send a letter to the hunters. The letter was written in Somali, aiming to confuse the hunters. Majid, who has a large social network, called this his trump card. He was very confident and even mocked the hunters on Twitter, saying life on the run was too easy. The letter contained insults, which irritated the hunters. Majid continued to mock the hunters by returning to his initial escape location. He took some photos there and had his friend Diana tweet them to the hunters. Tweeting exposed Diana's contact, and she was called in for questioning at headquarters. Afterwards, Majid fled to his hometown and took refuge at a Sheffield Green Party friend's house. There was a Green Party election rally that night, which the hunters knew about and monitored on site. Majid, who loved thrills, chose not to risk attending and stayed at his friend's house instead. Majid knew his network was limited to a few in the Green Party, which the hunters were well aware of. By the time his friend warned him the hunters were present, it was too late. They had already obtained vehicle information and tracked Majid's movements through the license plate tracking system. Majid thought he was always one step ahead of the hunters, but using his friend's car was very risky. Ground capture teams intercepted him, and he was quickly caught. Relying on friends for escape was dangerous, and his constant taunting of the hunters was unwise. Majid was eliminated. The father-son team was restless in the wilderness. To increase their chances of winning, Alex, who has social challenges and still lived at home at age 26, suggested splitting up to act independently. He wanted to practice reaching out for help on his own. Unfortunately, the first person he approached rejected him. Alex, often bullied in school as a child, was deeply hurt by these memories and couldn't help crying when recalling his difficult childhood. Now only 4 contestants remain in 2 teams. John and Dan have left the hunters without any clues. They are the hardest to catch and have stayed out of the search area. After playing as a brother duo for over 10 days, they want to return to their hometown. If there's a chance of being caught anywhere, they'd rather be on their own turf. Even though it's risky, some contestants choose to go back home. But returning doesn't make them feel any better. Instead, it's torturous because they are so close to family yet can't go home. Dan, a family man, recorded 25 bedtime stories for his kids before the game. Unfortunately, the hunters saw these and decided to write a fairy tale-style bedtime story for Dan to tease him. Now the brothers are staying at a friend's house. Dan felt embarrassed when he saw the hunters' bedtime story. These provocations are mild. Dan is an adult and just a bit angry. The hunters are trying everything to catch them. Bob, from the father-son team, is camping alone in the wilderness, while his son Alex wants to contact his mother. This is the longest Alex has been away from his mother. Knowing the dangers of going home, Alex suggested they split up so he could see his mother. Fortunately, Alex succeeded with the help of his father's Freemason brother. His mother, who was under surveillance with monitoring equipment in her car, disguised herself and used her husband's Freemason brother's car. By the time the hunters accessed this car's information, the mother and son had already met. Meanwhile, Bob flagged down a small truck and hid in the back. The truck driver was kind and shared his Sunday schedule with Bob, offering him a ride and leaving his phone number. A great opportunity. Bob had used a disposable phone previously to help Alex contact his mother. Knowing the hunters were aware of this number, Bob removed the phone's battery and SIM card after the call. On the other side, the brother duo arrived at a friend's bar a few miles from Dan's home. They decided to draw the hunters there by live streaming. The brothers sang and drank during the live session, enjoying themselves thoroughly. It would take the hunter team at least 40 minutes to arrive. The obvious live provocation showed that the brothers were not worried about being caught. After singing a song, they quickly left the bar. When the hunters arrived, they couldn't leave empty-handed and immediately offered a 500-pound reward at the bar. But unfortunately, no one knew any crucial information. With 3 days left in the game, each fugitive received an electronic file stored on a USB drive. The brothers checked the file's contents at a cafe, which detailed the final extraction plans, including the time, location, and transportation. The 4 fugitives have 72 hours to reach the Greenbank dock on the River Dart in Devon and board a motorboat within the designated time to win a 100,000-pound prize. Their location will be exposed when they read this message, but the hunters do not know the extraction point. The brothers quickly left the cafe. Luckily, their car was parked a few miles away, giving them time to drive off, even if their location was exposed. All 4 fugitives were far from the extraction point. The brothers drove themselves, while Bob and Alex caught rides. While Bob checked the file, the capture team looked up mobiles that were active near his location and left soon after. If any of these phones were linked to the person who gave Bob a ride, they could trace the clue. The SUV that drove Bob was quickly found by the hunters. After leaving the SUV, Bob's final escape was assisted by his friend Richard. When the hunters called the SUV driver, he was shocked. To extract useful information, they falsely claimed Bob's mention of his autistic son was a lie. Hearing this, the SUV driver revealed the area Bob intended to escape to, thinking he had helped the wrong person. This gave the hunters the location where Bob got off and his intended destination. However, after disembarking in Devon, Bob bid farewell to his friend and left alone, later seeking help from strangers and camping in the wild to await extraction. At the end, seeking help from strangers was safest. By tracking Bob, the hunters pinpointed the probable extraction site and arrived with drones and police dogs, but Bob had already left. Eventually, 3 of the 4 fugitives received aid from strangers and could drive quickly to Greenbank Dock. Only Bob had camped nearby in the forest in advance. After nearly 10 days apart, the father and son reunited just before reaching the extraction point. Out of 9 fugitives, only the brother duo and the father-son team successfully escaped, each winning the £100,000 prize. Congratulations to them. This is a reality TV show where you can win £100,000. Contestants must evade capture for 25 days. The show features an elite team of hunters, including the team leader Peter, known for capturing dangerous criminals. 10 fugitives have 25 days to escape within the UK mainland. At this moment, all are aboard a speeding boat filled with thoughts. Some are already planning how to spend the money. Hunters are ready on land and in the air to shatter the dreams of any contestant from day one. Once they disembark, they must start running immediately to break through the encirclement. As other contestants sprint, Lorraine, wearing a conspicuous yellow sweatshirt, struggles and stops to adjust her gear. The hunters take minutes to reach the starting point. Exhausted, Lauren walks and runs, then withdraws escape money from an ATM. Realizing her coat is too visible, she hides, discards it, and hitches a getaway ride before the hunters arrive. The second group, Nicholas, 51, and Paul, 48, former addicts with past fleeing experience, get into a Mercedes. Suddenly, 2 men appear in the car, friends of Nicholas, aiming to confuse the hunters with body doubles. However, the plan is flawed, their shoes and builds don't match, and the hunters are not fooled. Matthew, a solo contestant and active Marine, knows his physical prowess overshadows the others. He cannot afford to be caught easily, fearing ridicule from comrades. Brothers Harry and Frank, the 4th team, have left the city. When Harry gets scared at the sight of cows, Frank holds his hand for comfort. The 5th team, sisters Emma and Jess, both nurses, understand how to care for each other during the escape. The 6th team, 2 black brothers, initially donned a pair of roller skates each and vanished into the crowd at high speed. Among the 6 teams, Lorraine has traveled the furthest. She hitchhiked to Scotland to meet her cousin and is enjoying the escape, unaware that hunters are searching her bedroom. They find a note detailing her escape plan, which she didn't destroy, leading them to suspect it might be a decoy. Nevertheless, they follow this clue to Lauren's current location, where many of her relatives live, giving the hunters a new lead. Lauren enters a distillery seeking help from strangers. A stranger directs her to a camping spot, but just after she leaves, the hunters' headquarters receive a call from a man offering information about Lauren for a reward. The tip includes Lauren's recent visit to the distillery and her intended escape route, putting her in danger. She is on foot, carrying a bag, and luckily, the complex terrain of the nearby mountains conceals her location. Lauren seeks help again, hoping to camp on someone's land. But the woman warns her that the hunters had already called, advising her to run. Knowing Lauren's approximate location, the hunters contact local parking areas to watch for a fugitive named Lauren. Ironically, this action backfires as the woman tips Lauren off, and then her family helps Lauren quickly relocate by car, eluding the hunters. Meanwhile, the older brother duo is at their friend David's house, unaware that the hunters have tapped their friends' phones. They use David's phone to contact another friend, Jorge, unaware that the hunters have intercepted these clues. Jorge, close to the brothers, agrees to meet at a church but goes to the wrong one. After a lengthy wait and a revealing phone call, the hunters track their location. Jorge's mistake in going to the wrong church inadvertently aids the hunters. Subsequently, using a vehicle registration tracking system and investigating the fugitives' network, the hunters identify their next point of contact, a person with pink short hair named Carlin. The older brother duo thought their escape journey was secretive as they constantly moved and contacted different friends. They arrived at Carlin's home while she was out buying supplies, leaving them hiding in her house. During this time, the hunters arrived and surrounded them. When Carlin returned, she warned the brothers about suspicious people nearby with a cameraman. At this point, the brothers had to split up and run. Nicholas was caught first while Paul, hiding in a car, was also quickly found. They used a friend's phone to contact another friend, unaware of the danger, thinking they were safe. Their carelessness led to their elimination. Meanwhile, the sister duo, Jess and Emma, were in an industrial park, trying to hitchhike to Scotland, but no one would take them. Not wanting to move again, they asked a man for help in exchange for doing some cleaning work, which he agreed to. After they left, the man posted a photo on Twitter, not to expose them, but with a hint of mockery. He did not sell them out for £500. After spending the night at a campsite, Jess and Emma continued towards Glasgow, hitchhiking and hoping for a ride. Eventually, they got a ride at a gas station with surveillance. The man who had helped them earlier had called the hunters, though not revealing any clues. However, through surveillance and a vehicle tracking system, the hunters pinpointed the sisters' approximate location. After getting off at a gas station, the sisters planned to take a train and find a friend to help. To blend in, they dressed up, but this made them more noticeable. They also intentionally kept their distance from each other and sat in different train compartments. The hunters saw all of this on surveillance. Upon arriving in Glasgow, they were picked up by a friend and taken to Glenn's house, a former Marine, who provided significant help by arranging their itinerary and escape plan. Glenn also gave them a spare phone and told them to wait for his text in 48 hours about where to go next. The sisters felt victory was near. However, there's a serious problem. Won't the hunters discover Glenn's involvement? They already saw the footage of the sisters getting into a car from surveillance. So, the suspicious text Glenn sent the next day was also seen by the hunters. The text clearly told the sisters when and where to go, and whose car to take. With this information, the hunters had full control over the sisters' escape plan. Even though the sisters kept changing locations, they lowered their guard at the most dangerous time. The hunters caught up with them before their next move, and they were captured without realizing what went wrong. Glenn's strategy seemed perfect, but was actually flawed because he had exposed himself. Therefore, all subsequent movements were futile. Meanwhile, Matthew, a lone escapee and Marine, was hiking and hiding in the mountains. He joined the show to earn money so his wife wouldn't have to work and could spend more time with their children. The hunters found a phone and a hard drive at Matthew's house. Technicians, using Matthew's Google account, accessed his voice search history. They also discovered that before fleeing, Matthew had searched extensively for weather information about Wales. At this time, Matthew was hiking in Snowdonia, Wales. He had planned his escape route in advance, but didn't realize that his search history had been accessed by the hunters. Unaware, Matthew even mocked the hunters by sending a t-shirt with "Catch me if you can" written on it to their headquarters. This, however, helped the hunters narrow down their search. They were speechless when they received the dirty and smelly t-shirt, which Matthew had used to dry himself after a bath in a river. The mailed t-shirt revealed Matthew's recent location and surveillance footage, though he had already left. The location was in Matthew's search records. Previously, the hunters had used his weather search records to analyze his escape route, exposing a crucial location. Instead of following Matthew, the hunters aimed to intercept him. Matthew's arrogance was his downfall. The hunters' analyzed route was accurate. At the same time, someone called in a tip after seeing a suspicious man asking for directions at a bar. The hunters reached the destination first and set up multiple capture teams on major roads, with drones and police dogs ready. They just waited for Matthew to walk into the trap. Fortunately, Matthew was lucky to catch a bus early and evade the hunters' sight. After getting off, the alert Matthew quickly hid in the forest and cut off all contact with the outside world. The brothers have already hiked 100 miles. Frank claims it was easy, but Harry clearly found it much more challenging. Their parents have passed away, and in Harry's eyes, Frank has taken care of him like a father. After several days on the run, Harry couldn't help but cry, overwhelmed by the pressure. Their next step was to meet up with their sister, Licky. First, the brothers stopped at their friend Matt's house. Matt and Lee, who are in a relationship, were there. Harry asked Lee to pass a message to their sister, Licky. Unknown to them, hunters had already installed surveillance at Licky's doorstep. Lee was spotted by the hunters when she visited Licky's house, but Licky wasn't home. The brothers had to call Licky to arrange a meeting time. From this call, the hunters confirmed Lee's identity and, using satellite positioning, roughly located Lee. Although the hunters analyzed the situation accurately, they were a step too late. The brothers met Licky at an agreed intersection and immediately drove off, a tactic that often results in the hunters missing their target. On the other side, another group of brothers, who are black, were primarily hiking and camping. They decided to rest at a restaurant bar, but found their bank cards frozen by the hunters during checkout. With little cash on hand, they barely managed to scrape together 40 pounds to pay. This card transaction almost led to their capture. Both groups were very cautious, unlike Matthew, a Marine, who was bold. Today, on his first Father's Day as a dad, Matthew didn't want to miss this important day and even bought a gift for his child. His plan involved getting help from his brother-in-law Duncan to bring his wife to the meeting spot. Unfortunately, Matthew didn't know his plans had been exposed, making it easy for the hunters to guess he would contact Duncan, especially on Father's Day. Thankfully, they were careful. Matthew's wife arrived in a car unknown to the hunters and successfully met with Matthew in the forest. Now that he has seen his wife, the upcoming days of evasion should be more secure to ensure they can win the prize money. However, Matthew, finding it too boring, wanted to add excitement, a risk level previous contestants wouldn't dare consider. Matthew first traveled to Devon through a friend named Robot, planning to ambush the hunters with another friend, John's help. While others avoided the hunters, Matthew planned to humiliate them. The plan was simple: have John's daughter lure his wife to a spot where the hunters would follow. Then, Matthew, hiding, would quickly strike, slashing the tires of the hunter's vehicle. Matthew didn't expect that the hunters had already analyzed his approximate location using a license plate recognition system. They filtered vehicles that passed near Matthew's house and the meeting spot with his wife, identifying about 30 cars, including one belonging to Matthew's friend, Robot. From this data, the hunters confirmed Matthew's location. They then accessed surveillance footage and spotted Matthew on the beach. Thus, when Matthew arranged for John's daughter to contact his wife, he was walking into a trap, making the hunters more certain of John's involvement. As their ambush failed, John and Matthew quickly headed home, unaware that the ground capture team was already in place. The overconfident Matthew was captured, never realizing how the hunters knew about John. It was the exposed search records and the unnecessary ambush plan that cost him the chance at 100,000 pounds. Now, only 3 groups of fugitives remain: 2 sets of brothers and Lauren, who is on her own. The hunters have issued a warrant for Lauren, a massive blow since she had been hitchhiking and relying on the kindness of strangers. With the warrant now public, her situation becomes more complicated. Lauren, worried about her mother, plans to return to her hometown of Essex. She sought help from strangers and eventually, in a local bar, met a boy named Lyons, whose mother offered Lauren a ride. Lauren was thrilled that her journey home seemed so smooth. Meanwhile, the hunters received a tip-off about Lauren's general location and accessed surveillance from nearby public places. They saw Lauren in a bar talking with Lyons and another boy. When the hunters arrived at the bar, the other boy revealed the details of Lyons' assistance. The ground capture team quickly moved to Lyons' home. Although Lyons' mother did not disclose any details about Lauren, the hunters, who could search phones, remotely accessed and retrieved all deleted messages from Lyons' mother's phone. These messages, intended for Lauren's ride home with a man named Simon, detailed the exact time and place of their meeting. The deleted messages were now in the hunters' hands. The next day, when the time came, several ground capture teams were deployed near the meeting spot, making escape nearly impossible for Lauren if she showed up. However, an unexpected event occurred. Lauren did not arrive at the agreed time because she sensed danger approaching. She changed her plan on the spot, borrowed a stranger's phone to seek help from her friend Kieran, and decided not to take Simon's car due to a bad feeling. The hunters were fooled and would not give up easily. At this point, Lauren calling her friend was a risky decision. Kieran, Lauren's best friend's boyfriend, had his mobile number already monitored. Lauren's impromptu change of plans and the call to Kieran at noon were very suspicious. Using license plate recognition, The hunters confirmed Kieran's driving route. Just as Lauren was excited about getting closer to home, the ground capture team began their encirclement. She almost made it home, which devastated Lauren even more. Contacting her friend was a mistake, but not contacting might have led to an earlier capture. Lauren was eliminated. On the other hand, the Black brothers, Ish and Nate, have different personalities. Nate is outgoing and sociable, while Ish is introverted and has social anxiety due to being bullied in school for many years. The continuous fugitive life worsened Ish's mental state. He planned to meet his family for relief, a very risky move. However, Nate had a good plan. He decided to use himself as bait by live streaming on Instagram in Nottingham, drawing all the hunters' attention there. Then, Ish took this opportunity to meet his sister nearby in Derby. Eventually, they met up, and Ish successfully saw his sister while Nate's live stream faced no danger since the hunters were all focused on capturing Lauren. Nate dared to live stream because he was prepared to escape. After parting with his sister, Ish quickly went to the rendezvous point and waited a long time for Nate, growing anxious. He worried Nate had been captured and did not want to escape alone. Nate, however, was not captured, but thought Ish had been exposed. Having risked meeting his sister and live streaming, he did not want to endanger himself further and chose to split from his teammate. With only 2 days left, the show will give the fugitives a number before the final extraction. Calling this number will reveal the final extraction location and time, but it will also expose their location. The brother duo is still together. The Black brothers, Ish and Nate, have separated, and they just need to endure one more day to win £100,000. This time, it was a bit difficult. Hunter team leader Peter deployed a helicopter. After Ish made a phone call, he was exposed to surveillance. The hunters also saw Ish holding a notebook, and he was likely fleeing along the canal. The hunter's guess was correct. The timing of the helicopter combined with the ground capture team was impeccable. Ish, riding his bicycle, was startled by the helicopter noise, breaking into a cold sweat. Fortunately, there were dense woods nearby for Ish to hide. But unfortunately, his bicycle tire was punctured. While Ish was stopping to fix his bike, the ground capture team happened to pass by and caught him on the spot. Peter quickly ordered the capture team to search Ish and take his notebook. The final extraction point for the fugitives was on the rooftop of a shopping center in downtown Birmingham. Ish's notebook contained many notes, but the hunters did not yet know which was the extraction information. They could only take Ish back to headquarters for interrogation. Ish would definitely not say anything. So Peter decided to play a trick. During Ish's interrogation, he intentionally made everyone cheer, making Ish believe that Nate had been caught. To make it more believable, they played a pre-recorded video broadcasting Nate's voice, convincing Ish that his brother had also been captured. The purpose of these actions was to tempt Ish with money to reveal the extraction point. Your brother is already caught. Why not take these £4,000 and split them with Nate? After all, you've lost the prize money. You might as well not go home empty-handed. Faced with the lure of money, Ish chose to refuse. The £100,000 prize was for the other surviving contestants. Ish's silence did not mean the hunters were out of options. They had already obtained the notebook, which surely contained the extraction point information. The messy handwriting on one page was particularly suspicious, hinting at an extraction at 1 p.m. in Birmingham, possibly involving a helicopter landing in a certain area of Birmingham. The hunters had already grasped this crucial piece of information, marking a significant breakthrough. In the city, surveillance was everywhere, and multiple ground capture teams struck simultaneously. Harry was caught in the streets to cover for his brother, followed by Nate's capture, and finally, Frank. All fugitives were captured before the extraction. They all wondered why they were caught when the helicopter was already in sight. Yes, because Ish was caught, the extraction point information was exposed, leading to the last 3 not successfully escaping. Regrettably, no one won the £100,000 prize this season,